You know, in this nonstop world we live in, we're always caught between two very different ways of being. We can either react on impulse, or we can respond with real intention. So let's get into it. Let's explore how we can actually train our brains to choose that second path, the one with more calm, more presence, and way more self-control.
And this right here, this is really the heart of our entire conversation. See, reacting is just a reflex. It's something that happens to you. But responding, well, that's a skill. It's something you actively do. And believe me, that difference makes all the difference.
Does any of this sound familiar? Yeah, I thought so. The truth is, our nervous systems were just not built for this constant, 24/7 flood of modern stressors. And what happens? We end up in this state of chronic pressure. Our tolerance gets lower and lower, exhaustion starts to creep in, and before we know it, we're just way more reactive.
But here's the really good news, and it's backed by decades of neuroscience. Your brain can actually change. Emotional regulation isn't some fixed trait you're born with. It's a neural competence. It's a skill you can learn and strengthen, just like a muscle. The way you choose to respond today literally builds the brain you're going to have tomorrow.
Okay, so if we're going to train this skill, we first have to understand what's going on under the hood. So let's take a look at the biology of why we react the way we do.
I want you to think of your brain as having two main highways. You've got the low road, which is this super fast instinctual route. It's run by your amygdala, your brain's little threat detector. And get this, it processes information about 200 milliseconds before it even gets to the rational part of your brain. Then you have the high road. This is the slower, more scenic route that goes through your prefrontal cortex. This is where careful thought and intentional responses happen. The problem is, modern life triggers that super fast low road all day long.
And that leads to this fascinating thing that Daniel Goleman called an amygdala hijack. This is when that low road just completely takes over the whole system. You'll know it's happening by three key signs. First, the intensity of your emotion is way, way out of proportion to what actually happened. Second, the feeling sticks around for a long time. And third, afterward, you almost always regret how you acted. Recognizing this isn't a sign of weakness, it's just biology in action.
So, the big question is, how do we stop these hijacks? It takes a lot more than just telling yourself to calm down. We need a real framework for this, and that brings us to the 3-level regulation model.
This model is just brilliant because it looks at the whole cycle. Level 1 is all about prevention. That means making yourself less vulnerable in the first place. You know, good sleep, nutrition, setting boundaries. Level 2 is interruption, which is stopping that automatic reaction right in the moment with a pause or a deep breath. And level 3 is integration. This is where you actually learn from what happened so you don't keep repeating it. Now here's the kicker. Most people only ever focus on level 2, and that's exactly why they get stuck. Without prevention, you're always putting out fires, and without integration, you never actually learn from your patterns.
A great way to visualize this is with a concept from Dr. Daniel Siegel called the window of tolerance. So as you can see here, there's this optimal window right in the middle. That's the sweet spot where we can think clearly and manage our emotions. But stress can easily push us out of that window. If we get pushed up, we go into hyperactivation. That's that classic fight or flight feeling, right? Anxiety, panic. If we get pushed down, we go into hypoactivation, feeling shut down, numb, kind of checked out. The whole goal of these tools is to help you notice when you're leaving your window and learn how to gently guide yourself back in.
All right, so we've covered the why and the what. Now let's get to the fun part, the how. Let's look at some really powerful practical tools you can use to build your capacity for an intentional response.
It all starts with something called emotional granularity. So research from Brené Brown found that most of us really only use about 3 words to describe how we feel: fine, bad, or stressed. But there are dozens of distinct emotions. Being precise is a superpower. Are you stressed, or are you actually feeling cognitive overload? Are you angry, or are you feeling frustrated because a boundary was crossed? Naming it correctly is the first step to dealing with it effectively.
Okay, so once you've named the emotion, you need a way to communicate it clearly. And for that, the XYZ model from the Gottman Institute is an absolute game changer. It's a simple little formula. When you do X, in context Y, I feel Z. This tiny shift changes the whole conversation, from attacking the other person to just explaining your own experience.
I mean, we've all been there, right? You blurt out something reactive and blaming like this. All it does is put the other person on the defensive and boom, the conflict just escalates. It's all about attacking their character.
But just watch what happens when we use the XYZ model instead.
You're not attacking, you're offering clear data. When I receive your edits 10 minutes before the deadline, that's X, the specific behavior. During important presentations, that's Y, the context, I feel a strong sense of anxiety, and that's Z, your emotion. See? This statement isn't an accusation, it's an explanation. It invites collaboration instead of conflict, which is the entire point of responding instead of reacting.
Another fantastic tool is called cognitive restructuring. It's built on a really simple idea. Events don't cause our emotions. Our interpretation of events does. The ABCDE model helps us challenge those automatic interpretations. So A is the activating event, just the facts. B is your belief about what happened. C is the emotional consequence. But then, and this is the important part, D is for disputing. You ask yourself, is that belief 100% true? And E is for creating a new, more balanced belief. It's not about positive thinking. It's about thinking more accurately.
Now, all of these tools are amazing, but they only work with practice. This isn't about some quick fix. It's about building a stable skill, and that only comes through consistent effort.
And you can really see how crucial this skill is in our relationships. Research from John Gottman's famous Love Lab shows that the happiest couples don't argue less, they just argue better. And this slide shows exactly how. They take breaks before things escalate, they criticize a specific behavior, not the person's character, and they repair the emotional damage quickly. They are, essentially, masters of regulation when things get tense.
So how long does it take to de-escalate? Well, according to Gottman's research, just a 20-minute pause with some kind of calming activity is enough to significantly reduce your physiological fight or flight response. That's it. Just 20 minutes can totally change the outcome of an argument.
And that brings us to our final thought for today. This question really gets to the very heart of the difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is all about winning the moment, but responding is about resolving the issue to build a better future. And the choice, with a little bit of practice, is always yours.